Hey there, welcome to Crossroads Politics as we recap what happened inside the Indiana State House and what it all means for Hoosiers. I'm Dustin Grove, and we start this week with the story that affects every single homeowner in this state. Property tax relief. Lawmakers have been trying to balance giving homeowners a break on soaring tax rates without losing critical city services and school funding. That's what property taxes pay for. And we're now getting a clearer picture of relief and what that relief might look like. Emily Longnecker brings us the latest developments that just broke Friday afternoon.
You know, there's only 3 weeks left in this legislative session and still a lot of work to do. Part of that work includes passing a property tax relief bill, and that work brought House leadership to the State House on Friday, where they unveiled their version of what they believe property tax relief should look like.
Majority of Hoosiers will see a property tax bill in 26 less than 25, and I'm not sure how many things you can say you'll pay less for in 26 than 25.
How much less is still the question, and not a simple, straightforward answer, says Republican House Speaker Todd Houston, releasing details of the proposal Friday.
I wish I could stand up here and give you like all the bare bones specifics. I'd love to know what my property tax bill is going to look like in 26. But the fact of the matter is like, again, you know, are you in a referendum? Are you in a community on a referendum? I mean, all those things that just have a significant impact.
What Houston and the proposal's architect, House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Republican State Representative Jeff Thompson, can say is that a majority of Hoosiers will save $1.1 billion in property taxes over the next 3 years. The plan proposes doing that through a combination of credits and reforms. The plan gives all Hoosiers a property tax credit of 7.5% of their property tax bill, up to $200. Seniors would get an additional $150 credit. Disabled veterans an extra $250. So how will this new plan impact local governments and schools who use property taxes to pay for services? Thompson says they'll still get more money next year, just not as much as they thought. Also, SB 1 includes language from another bill, Senate Bill 518, that would require public schools to share money raised through referenda with charter schools. That won't happen until 2028.
So there's plenty of time for communities to adjust. It's a 4-year phase in, and so we feel like we're accommodating all those needs and following a long-term practice of money following the kid.
SB 1 also reforms the property tax system over the long term, giving local governments the ability to raise local income taxes to fund local services, shifting the burden away from property taxes. And House Speaker Todd Houston said part of the problem for high property taxes is the fact that local governments carry quite a bit of debt, and he said that this version of SB 1 contains some controls to try and rein some of that debt in. Now, Democratic State Representative Greg Porter, he is the ranking minority member on the House Ways and Means Committee. He called this version of SB 1 far from a solution. He criticized the part of it that would see public schools sharing referendum money with charter schools. He also had criticism for the part of this version of this bill that would see local governments having more ability to raise local income taxes. He basically said with that you would have more money in your right pocket, but then you would have to pay more out of your left pocket. Now, House Ways and Means will get a look at this version of SB 1 on Monday, and they're expected to vote then.
Thanks, Emily. Now to education. Big changes coming to the requirements to get a high school diploma here in Indiana. This is a change that is years in the making, and Governor Braun made it official this week. Starting during the 28-29 school year, students can earn 42 credits for graduation. The new program has minimum requirements, and then a step above that offers 3 separate honors readiness seals. An enrollment readiness seal allows students to automatically be accepted into the 7 colleges and universities in Indiana. The employment readiness seal gives students dedicated career support, meaning help getting a job within the state. The enlistment readiness seal qualifies students to join the Indiana National Guard and other military branches.
We have now provided a pathway that enables those students. And a lot of our kids that end up doing the best may have the aptitude and the willingness and the hard work to do something right out of school. And if you get that right, look what you save in terms of time and resources.
While it does start during the 28-29 school year, schools can opt in as early as this fall. That was one of at least 20 bills Governor Braun signed into law this week. Lawmakers have sent Braun 38 bills so far, and he has signed all of them. You can read every single one of them if you'd like. Our partners at the Capitol Chronicle have linked them online. Now to the debate over Medicaid and how to contain ballooning costs. Some Hoosiers are expressing their frustration and concern about a bill that deals with this. Senate Bill 2 would involve proposed cuts to Indiana's Medicaid programs. It would tighten Medicaid eligibility and add work requirements for certain programs. Critics worry this could lead to too many Hoosiers either losing Medicaid coverage or having to pay more.
I lost my mother last year, but when I think about if it wasn't for these programs, how could she handle the expense? Because there is no extra money.
That's Emmett Mosley, who's on Medicaid now after he says he lost the ability to work due to an injury. Supporters say Medicaid costs are soaring and the state has to get a handle on it to get those costs down. Also this week, lawmakers passed a bill that would ban transgender athletes from participating in women's college sports here in Indiana. The bill also now heads to the governor's desk after passing the Senate earlier this week by a vote of 42-6. It is worth noting Governor Braun signed an executive order earlier this year that effectively does the same thing as this bill. The NCAA also changed its policy earlier this year that banned transgender athletes from competing in women's college sports. Lawmakers who sponsored the bill say this would protect athletes from any changes to the NCAA policy in the future. Also this week, lawmakers once again discussed a bill that could bring nuclear power to Indiana. If signed into law, it would create a pilot program for what are called small modular reactors, also known as SMRs for short. Supporters see this as a way to solve the state's need for more electricity, but critics are concerned about the cost and who will pay for it.
Just please protect ratepayers. Put the risk for these investments where they belong, on these deep-pocket companies, the big tech folks, not on ratepayers struggling to make ends meet.
The bill would encourage institutional partnerships to help pay for and deploy these SMRs. Those partners could include public universities, for example. Lawmakers did not vote on that bill earlier this week. We'll see what happens next week. An April 1st post from Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita is now under scrutiny by members of the LGBTQ community. They say it was anything but funny. Rokita uploaded this post on the official Indiana AG Facebook page on April Fool's Day. It shows him standing next to two different flags. One of them you see there is a flag supporting the Second Amendment that says come and take it. The other is a Progress Pride flag. The caption on Rokita's post says, "The left wins. They finally brainwashed me. I'm taking down our come and take it flag and replacing it with this one. April Fools." Lafayette Pride, which is the oldest LGBTQ plus community center in the state, called the joke distasteful. And organizational leaders there, they're now calling on Rokita to apologize.
To go out of your way to just poke at an entire community when we're Hoosiers. We work, we raise families, we pay taxes, we're your next door neighbor, and you're going out of your way to just be mean-spirited, and it's unbecoming.
They say next year they hope Rokita will be a little more creative and think of a joke that everyone can laugh at. We've reached out to Rokita's office about the post and the call for an apology. When we hear back, we'll share his response. And this also got a lot of attention this week.
You probably deserved it.
I deserved it?
You probably deserved it.
I deserved it.
Dude, that's
wow.
so rude and sad.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Why did I deserve it?
Because you seem like a clown.
We showed you this now viral video earlier this week. Indiana Senator Jim Banks and that interaction at the Capitol in D.C. It's with a former HHS worker, Health and Human Services, who was fired as part of the federal cuts. We also heard from Banks. He posted a video on his social media accounts reacting to that viral moment. Watch.
I won't back down. I won't apologize for it. I support President Trump and the DOGE effort 100% to cut wasteful spending and woke jobs out of the federal government, and we're just getting started.
In a follow-up post, Senator Banks wrote, "I have no sympathy for left-wing activists who've been let go from overpaid positions that should never have existed. I do have sympathy for the hardworking Hoosiers whose tax dollars have been wasted on bankrolling these positions." And finally this week, it's an experience no parent ever wants to have: the loss of a child. Earlier this week, several parents who know that journey went to the State House to tell lawmakers to share about losing their children to cancer. 13 News State House reporter Emily Longnecker explains the reason behind sharing those stories.
Yeah, every single one of these stories was very personal, very powerful. These parents basically laid bare their pain in front of lawmakers, hoping to convince them to establish a pediatric cancer research fund here in Indiana.
The picture in front of you is of my son, Justin.
It's been a little over 2 years since Robin Spoon looked at her son, Justin, the young man whose picture she brought to the State House Monday, and told him he was going to die.
He pounded his fists and he said, "This is not fair. It's not fair that parents have to tell their kids that they're dying." And then he just said, "Hey, please take my story out for a spin and make this better."
So that's why Spoon and other parents who've lost children to cancer, along with parents whose kids are still fighting for their lives, came to testify in support of House Bill 1453.
It's been 3 years since my brave girl completed a brutal chemotherapy protocol comprised of drugs developed before her grandmother entered elementary school.
HB 1453 would create a pediatric cancer research fund to help develop new drugs to treat childhood cancer. Something one researcher testified doesn't happen very often.
Annually, the FDA approves approximately 12 drugs for adults, but in 50 years or so, 11 specifically for children. Children are receiving hand-me-down drugs. These drugs, sometimes they're effective, quite often they're not.
Robin Spoon learned that when Justin was undergoing his treatment.
We had no idea that he would be treated with drugs that were FDA approved before we put a man on the moon.
Every year, these parents say they raise money to fund research into new drugs, but the money doesn't stay in Indiana.
We don't have a place to put our money.
This bill would change that.
In the state of Indiana, we have everything necessary to discover, manufacture, and distribute drugs for kids with cancer. We just have to put it all together.
Making the need for a fund in Indiana even more critical, say these parents and doctors, the recent funding cuts to pediatric cancer research at the national level.
It's very difficult to just rely on federal government funding, especially in times like these.
Our kids did not sign up for cancer. My son did not sign up for cancer.
But Justin Spoon fought it for 28 long months. Now his mom and other parents of kids with cancer are asking the state to help equip their kids with better weapons to take into battle.
We call them fighters. We're asking them to fight with pitchforks. It's unconscionable.
The bill was amended to also include a breast cancer research fund. This bill, HB 1453, passed out of committee unanimously. It would still have to be called by the Senate for consideration there before it could get over the finish line. At the Indiana State House, Emily Longnecker, 13 News.
And that does it for this week's edition of Crossroads Politics here on WTHR+. You can catch us every week at 10 a.m. or streaming online anytime and see us every day on 13 News. We'll see you next time.